I'm in teacher mode this morning. I do have a panel of young people who I have to moderate and put in order as we pick up our Kickstarter this morning. I am Priscilla Regina Naloga, your global moderator. The backbone of our discussion this morning is really interrogating the positioning of young people in leadership, as well as deciding for their future in a time such as now. So today, making up the largest generation in history are the youth, and this is across the world, but specifically to Uganda. Of course, we do have that number coming out of the UBO statistics of 2024 indicating that demography has actually flipped. And according to the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, you do have that report indicating that there is a 1.2 billion young people globally, and these are aged between 15 and 24 years of age. In Africa, the numbers are even more striking. We get to look at the African Development Bank estimating that more than 60% of Africa's population is now under the age of 25, and that future belongs to them. Here in Uganda, the Uganda Bureau of Statistics did indicate that over 3/4 of the population is now below the age of 35. And this demographic reality, meaning that the young people are not only just beneficiaries of development, economic and social, but now they must be put at a realistic center of shaping the future of governance that will lead their future. So globally, we get to look at research from the United Nations Education, Scientific and Culture Organization, UNESCO, also indicating that while we do have many governments consulting young people during policy discussions, a few are actually providing formal structures where young people are having meaningful influence in decision-making on national level. So the debate today is shifting on to how governments are actually moving young people from simply being the margins of consultation to the center of decision making. And what does it take to actually transform young people from passive beneficiaries from government institutions, service delivery, as well as programs, onto active partners with government? I'm privileged to be having guests that are going to do justice to exactly that. But of course, starting with ladies first, for obvious reasons, given the fact that we are in the month of women. Diana Ampaire, who's a youth politician, recently flag bearer in the recently concluded elections, and she's a young political advocate looking at strengthening youth leadership as well as democratic participation and policy engagement among the young people. You're most welcome, Lady Diana.
Thank you so much.
How are you?
I'm very okay. How are you today?
Very good. In a special way, shining light on you as a young lady upcoming in the political space. What's the journey been like for you?
Well, I would like to first of all thank the government, though we are here to talk more of reforming it and all, because as a young girl with that African background and the culture of Uganda, to be having such a platform to just run through politics and be a leader, the first credit goes to government for that credibility of at least putting a platform of affirmative action for us as young women to come through and lead. Yes, the journey might not have been as easy, but because at least there was that open door for us to start with, which wasn't there before and which is still lacking, most especially in Africa. So I still had that platform that I really thank the government for, and that has shaped me from, it's there from primary, from secondary, throughout the whole university, and even up to the national level, you still find that affirmative position, at least for a girl. So that has paved the way for it not to be so hard. But either way, as still the vulnerability of being a girl, it's not been so easy, mostly like running for a national race like I recently concluded. There's a lot of, they are still wondering, can you manage, you're a girl, how will you traverse the whole country? And all this is still formed by the fact that it's not out there politically and openly and boldly that, yes, here we are as a government, we have, we have these girls or we have these young people and they also entitled, we are prioritizing them in governance. And so it's not been so easy, but also on the side of girls, I think since we are in a Women's Month and all, it's not been so tough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did Ola Okot here help you in any way as you were going through your campaigning periods?
Just like I was excited, he was one of my campaign managers, and I think in the whole region where he comes from, that was my biggest stronghold. So he's a brother, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Court, thank you so much for supporting women in politics. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Your salutations.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. It's good to be here today to discuss the topic. Indeed, when we ran her campaign, it was called the Centered Agenda. And I think the topic today is about how do we center the young people in governance. And the next 4 years, we shall be rolling out the National Development Plan 4. And I also happen to be part of the executive of the National Youth Council, which is supposed to monitor what is the youth share in that, in the government planning, in the government releases, both at a national, but also in our decentralized system, at a local government level. The National Youth Council has 9 members per village, 648,000 in the whole country, and we sit at the helm of that. Gives us a unique opportunity to see different levels of government, how best the youth are able to tap into what is. But also, we have the mandate of seeing that this topic called youth, how does it fit into the context of 2025, where we are moving from the past. You know, they used to say the youth are the majority.
2025, 2026.
2026, sorry. We have been in elections, we are confused. But 2026, where the youth, we have been moving, saying the youth are an asset, but the world is moving so fast that the Western world, you pointed the demographics that the youth are big, but if you go to Europe and the US and even now China, the biggest issue besides climate is ageism, the aging population. And so these countries have moved ahead to create new forms of intelligence to substitute youth, and they are quickly moving to AI and all these things. And so how do these rhetorics we keep saying youth are young, they are the majority, they are an asset, time may even be passing where we are obsolete as forces of production for our country. So it's good to be here to discuss our place in governance.
All right.
At a strategic level. Thank you.
Of course, Ivan, you do understand terms and conditions apply. You both had to speak first, but Ivan Masawi, a youth politician who's very strong in terms of civic processes, leadership, public policy discussions. You're welcome to the table.
Thank you very much, Priscilla. First of all, I'm very happy to be with my sister and her campaign manager, who happens to be my boss. You did pose to her a question about how she has been empowered. It is also unfair not to recognize the fourth state as people who have empowered ladies through exposing the need to bring them at the table. So you allow me at that juncture to congratulate the NTV as a TV for marking 20 years. As an independent, as an impartial, as a factual, evidence-based media house that has served Ugandans greatly well, and we pray and extend more warmful wishes for the next century of service to Ugandans. So the topic of youth empowerment, first of all, it is just normal that history is made by young people across the world. Even here in Uganda, when you look at President Museveni, his greatest history was made when he was a youth. Yeah. He just got recognized later. The youth stage is a very sensitive stage because it determines the direction of your aligning with your life. When you misalign in the youth, the energy you used to realign becomes more than when you still had easy ways to realign and set a different direction. So basically, as a country, he just told you of the National Development Plan for the 29 to 30. It only has 46,000 jobs for the youth. Makerere here graduated just 10,000, Kyambogo 10,000, Gulu will be the same. Every year we have 1 million young people coming to the labor market. That calls us to think of more systematic and sensitive approaches to how to deal with the youth. When you look at, for example, I don't want to not be thankful. I'll try to use the NRM manifesto. I think page 72. is where they were only intentional about youth. The rest, they had integrated youths in other chapters as programs. The issue concerning youth as being marginalized in Uganda has not been given enough attention, because even when you look at cabinet appointments, when they come up and say young people have come into cabinet and the age has shrinked lower, in Uganda, the National Youth Council Act recognizes a youth as someone between 18 to 30. I don't know why people still have the East African Community Amendment that recognizes a youth as 15 to 35. You see someone of 34 but is still hiding under the position of a person who is not youth in the law. So I think we still have a big challenge on recognizing who really is the youth, definition of a youth, before we discuss other challenges.
That being said, we do have one of the youthful populations now across the region. Are we seeing young people being brought to the forefront of influencing governance, or are we still seeing the position where you do have observers of decision made by the elders who are 30 plus?
It can't, like at the moment, President Museveni and his colleagues can survive because the change has happened in their time. But it will be difficult to stop it because we are the majority by design. We could not be here, three of us, today morning, if NTV had not noticed that young people are now more, we need to give them attention and they show on their platform. So certain things are irreversible. But it should not be a design, it should not be a fashion that Uganda has many young people. That it has 5.5 million of them, they just wake up in the morning, not in education, training, skilling, or anything productive. That it has a youth population now suffering mental health, a youth population. We have 18 industrial parks according to the NRM plan. But the National Youth Action Plan of today, I don't know, he will brief us about it because it lies in his office, is not recognizing the sensitive sectors of aligning the youth into being productive. Because the youth, we accept or we don't accept, they are the foundation of the country's next leadership bed. Mm-hmm. Whether you want it or not, she will end up with an MP a day, she's going to be a minister a day. Time will come when she's the person who needs to plan and think for Uganda. So whether you want it or you don't want it, you need to prepare her, but also be sensitive about which vision and environment do you put this young people. The current challenge we are having with government is seeing youth as people you can use depending on the situation. In politics, you buy them, is why there was a question of tokenism within the topic. When youth are taken as a tokenistic material for exchange of consciousness, because there is a very big number of youth in Uganda who are not conscious with their politics. Reason is because the token, the environment you grow in, your demands are so much that when you're given a token, you forget that the other person has a responsibility that you pay for him to fulfill some of these demands.
That being said, Diana, let me come to you. One of the issues that we have to address on this table today is the fact that youth have been positioned as beneficiaries instead of partners in terms of development, and yet the development that is intended or should be created should be for the future that they will be existing in. So how we see that in terms of administration and government is through youth programs or through making youth a percentage beneficiary to any given program by and large. How is that actually curtailing the power for young people to choose and lead into the future they should?
I just want to first give you the foundation, like my brother said. He just listed the kind of structures we have from village level to parish to sub-county, district up to national level. So yes, we really thank the government that they saw they couldn't do without us and put those structures. But there is a very big gap where we lack functionality of these structures. And like you said, we can no longer be at the side of just receiving and just observing and spectating. We just need to be partners. You used a very good term. I come from a background of business, and like my brother here. So in any project, in any business, the best thing you can do right now in the 21st century we are in is collaboration. because the more you collaborate, in this case, we are also stakeholders in this very country. And the more you collaborate, it increases the productivity, it increases the creativity. And at this point, like it or not, we have the most fresh ideas because we are younger and we are facing these things on a daily level from the grassroots. So to me, we need, if the government could look into more of including us to the decision-making table, not just coming here. Like you've involved us. You've now got to know maybe who Diana is, what the young people might be believing in, who is Ola, who is Ivan. So if we have national development plan for coming up, is NEC going to be part of that? What are they contributing? If it is contributed, are they considering it? Because there is also these positions where, yes, you hear, we have a youth member of parliament, we have NEC, but are they actually decision makers? Have they been given this? Are they policy makers anywhere? Do they, you look at the government programs like you've talked about. I kept wondering when we were bringing in this presidential, skilling hubs. It was so exciting, but it's until you find out that actually by the time they were implementing them, none of us were part, or none of the young people were part of the planning.
We're part of the designing.
Of the designing and all. So you're going to find that, yes, we have every sub-region has a skilling hub, but now come like to Sebei. It's one of the smallest sub-regions. You find it, they have a skilling hub. But the syllabus says after 6 months, it's the same intake. That means in 3 years, we shall lose the whole thing of having skilling hubs because we have 400 people in bakery. We have 400 people just in a period of 2 months. 400 people in carpentry, but actually what happens in Sebei, maybe the biggest income they get is from agriculture. So what plans do they have on ground? So the whole thing is bringing us to the table. And trust me, the other day I was talking to some people from anti-corruption, of course, following up what happened in my election and all. And I told them the more you avoid young people, you're just doing injustice to yourselves because we are the best eyes on ground. Young people are all over. So not to bias us, it would be better to bring us to the table. First of all, we are very young, we are transparent, we don't fear losing anything, we don't have as many responsibilities unlike our uncles and aunties. So if I am put as an accountant at that local council or maybe a cow or what, I will deliver because I'm just looking at myself and getting a promotion, not taking my child to school and all and all. And with time, ethically, I will have, graduated to produce and be transparent and hence service delivery. So we need to be more of partners,
yes.
I agree with you, than just spectators and all.
Ola, you are on the hot seat because you joined a structure that already existed. In as much as this structure was intended to show that the youth are part of democracy and the systems of, for example, the national resistance movement in this case. But the realities on ground, you could say, are far from it because only when you have discussions, let's not even go very far. Let's just reflect on the elective season for your party in terms of primaries and all the other national positions that needed to be filled, and how the young people were sided in Kololo. How their election was treated as, no, you guys can wait. We'll have a closed-door discussion, and it is seniors that will have the closed-door discussions without the young people, and they'll just come to inform you. That is the mindset that we are having our young people, our young leaders operate in at such a time as this. What are the opportunities that do exist in actually breaking through that mindset?
All right, thank you very much. I'm here on behalf of the National Youth Council, so I speak for youth of all parties now that elections are done, but nevertheless the issues do cut across. Now, regarding some of these, we had the opportunity, myself, my sister Diana, and my brother Ivan, to move around the country during the elections, and I deducted only two things about the state called youthhood, or being a youth. One, the youth need livelihood. So because of our system where you have to go through school, you basically need this time period where you stabilize to be able to have a family and a way of life. And, this is what the young people want. I think my sister will agree. They want seedlings, they want calves, they want agro-tractors, and whatever facilitates them to have a livelihood. And secondly, they want jobs in that direction. So those are the two things. And then the youth want to be a part of the national journey. So those are the two key things. Now, regarding the first one, which is the livelihood and economic standpoint, now that we are within government, as the National Youth Council, our job is to make sure that whatever is within the NDP4, I think my brother was inaccurate by a big margin. The target is 800,000 jobs per year. I think you heard the Minister of Finance saying it in some funny video. And that is supposed to come from strategic sectors: manufacturing, tourism, oil and gas, and agro-industrialization. So first things is, at a job level, what can be done? So we must make sure the promised jobs in those sectors are coming about. Two, we should make sure things like the graduate scheme, which the president promised, do come out. But the other thing that we are looking at now, strategically as Uganda, our biggest asset is land. Uganda is so lucky, and I wish the young people knew this. Almost in the whole world, we are one of the only people who can say, you know, we have land in the village, we have land here, we have, apart from our urban youth. And so that is a huge factor of production that is very rare in the world, and fertile. We know Uganda, in terms of fertile land, is the biggest country in East Africa. And so we have to make sure that the government does its best so that the youth maximize this resource, such that if I have my 2 acres, she has a 4, her 5, and we are maximizing it to the best, we have a good average income. So I think in the direction of income to the youth, those are the two directions. How do we increase jobs for them, and how do we enable them to use what they have? Because the true wealth we have, and General Salim Saleh in Operation Wealth Creation keeps saying this, that look at what you are. It's like the Garden of Eden. You know, you don't see what's around you, but you keep going for the forbidden fruits. That said, Kwame Nkrumah said, seek first the political kingdom. What matters right now is the software of our young people, the morale they have to love this project called Uganda. If they don't have it, they're going to destroy it. We have just been in elections, and some of the things that happen, you clearly see that there's a sense of patriotism lacking. The monetization, you know, it's now all about money. There's no ideals, there's no ideology. And I think it is time that we stand up as young leaders to do this as our part. While we push for government, I think we also have a role as young leaders, that how do we nurture each other as a generation, because things are not looking good. And no matter how much money comes into the country, if it doesn't fall on patriots, we are going to have young people who will sell this country. So I'd like to stop there.
All right, Ivan, coming back to you, how often are we seeing young people getting involved in the designing of youth programs or national programs that have an element that...
I never wanted to discuss the National Youth Action Plan, if it is there or not there, because it is his office. But youth, basically, because of the consumptive approach we have been weaned with. President Museveni in the 70s, when he was in a youth, he accused Amin of being unfair, him not accepting him to thrive, and he went to see that he gets his way out. In his time, he doesn't allow other people to get their way out. You need to remain comfortable. The issue of being youth is not a permanent state. It is a transition, but it's the most sensitive state of any country. You can starve a few young people in a crowd, but you're starving a country. You're not starving the individuals. I'm seeing my brother avoiding to paint the picture in its roughness, to the extent that saying the target is 800,000 in the National Development Plan, for which he has on his phone. But the whole issue is not that. The whole issue is, how do we bring about youth on board, yet there is a structure which was intentional about doing it, but it is not achieving it. There is a National Youth Council which was intentional about being a full government for young people, but its funding crisis, its attractiveness towards this country's administration is still lacking. Even in political parties where I also come from, the youth structures itself, you gave an example of the Kololo incidents, where the majority of people who even fought and broke themselves were postponed for another day. She came through I think she has gone through one of the most disturbing parts of an election. Not even the presidential was painful like hers. because of the postponements and the cost. She runs a campaign like a president. But as a young person, I was a youth MP candidate, and a vote on a polling day was 700,000. One, after accommodating someone, they have eaten your food in a hotel, you send vans, they carry them in Mbari. And when I looked at that, you know, as leaders, we don't care the cost, because the other person is exchanging it for his credibility and consciousness. But the whole issue, you did ask a question. The whole issue that we should be discussing as youth leaders is how do we negotiate for the youth to arrive at productivity? This country,
and also in shaping policy and national direction.
Okay, when we shape policy and national direction, we shall arrive at productivity. But the key issues here is that even where policy was intentional, they have there is malnourished it by giving it less to thrive. Even where the whole is goodwill. I always don't want to use many good words. We have very many old people in this country with bad hearts. They don't have goodwill for the young people. They see them as insecurity. They see them as reckless. They see even the education they have given us, they don't trust us. You can go for an interview and you're interviewed as if the person interviewing you expects something different from you. It's trust and belief. Because why do you produce a child you don't believe in? So the biggest request we have as young people, we need the elders to have goodwill. Okay. And similarly, even us, we have goodwill for our young ones. Because we are also producing. It's not that when you're a youth, you don't produce.
All right, Diana, if we're to move away from being beneficiaries to, you know, a government's goodwill and being actors or co-actors with the government and be able to step into decision-making position, what are some of the mechanisms that we need to adopt, but also what are some of the bottlenecks that must be taken off the lead in order for that to become a reality someday?
Well, like we said, we cannot, it still rotates around when we're trying to move a centered agenda, as you hear it, a centered agenda it is. So, and I believe for us to move or make some movements or make some reforms, meaning something is already existing. Like, I want a bit not be like my brother. We need to also, like, I am a believer, we need to be grateful at some point as young people. And like Amin that he was talking about, at least we've been given this platform. So I still emphasize that we are doing well because the structures are already there. All we need is them to be empowered. If we have a National Youth Council, and in this case we have government programs, we have YLP, we have PDM, we have Myoga, we have skilling hubs. Who are the people monitoring? Who are the people evaluating? Which feedback do you get? I mean, recently young people just graduated from different universities. Do you have their database? Where are you attaching them? We have public service where you will go and they will just say, to start with you, you have to have at least 5 years of experience. But you just entrusted me to go to school for 4 years. So why don't we have at least, if you don't trust that I have come out with my theory and you can easily just employ me, why don't you just put that extra 1 year maybe for internship? So that by the time I come out of university, public service won't ask for 5 years experience. Or maybe why don't you just change? I am glad that TVET is trying to, you know, to change the curriculum. At least they are trying to align both theory and the skilling part. So if we can, you know, promote that and involve young people, because at the end of the day, someone who did the old curriculum of 20 years ago might not match the curriculum of now. Personally, I just went back to school. There are some kids I was following up, and I realized these young people, their curriculum is a bit different from ours, and I just finished 2018. So imagine, we're still having people in these public services, in these ministries, who finished long time ago. You find that Ministry of Education, we have people who are commissioners who are supposed to follow up with things, but they cannot even easily align with what is on ground. So at the end of that day, you know, Africans say that when a child is a bit abandoned for long in the village, they'll just burn it down to feel how warm is it, what is it that they're hiding from me. So I want to put it to your face, Priscilla, that actually young people are not as violent. we are not money-minded. Yes, the virus is there, but it's not solid.
Okay.
We just need to be seen.
Talking to the boss on the table here, Ola, if things do remain the same, you will graduate from the National Youth Council and you become a senior, and now you'll be part of the problem.
A father.
Or yet at the same time, you would have left the same problem for the younger generation to come through. How do we break that cycle?
All right, thank you very much. I want to pledge that as we swear in this month for the next 5 years, indeed we seek to make a fundamental difference. I keep going back to the Bible. For me, it gives me the basic lessons. And Jesus talked of seeking the kingdom first. I'm sorry to bring it to politics. But our duty as leaders, as a young generation, me, Diana, and Ivan, and those who can think for the generation, is to understand what is this kingdom of ours called Uganda. It is not the state of being youth. It is the country and its future and the people who dwell it. Those youth who move around, who don't even know that I'm a leader, or don't know that. That is the country. It is the mountains, the rivers, the lakes, and the fertile lands of Uganda that we dwell, that our future, and it is our kingdom, our Garden of Eden. It is up to us to sit down and make sure that we use all means necessary to define our role, define our agenda as a generation, and see how best we can activate this. We don't do this by putting ourselves in a victim corner. We must be proactive and use all means necessary. Now that said, we have different avenues that work. We need to see what has worked before. In the last regime, as we pick up from them, in the National Youth Council, we saw the Jacobs manage to, under even very little funding, push for 30% of PDM to be allocated to the young people, which was a huge success. The PDM budget is 3 trillion. That, if well implemented, as she said, there's frameworks, but now we need to focus on the quality within that. Because if that is implemented well, it means 1 trillion shillings goes to the youth, much as the budget of the Youth Council is still limited. If you look at the Public Procurement and Disposal Act, that now gives a huge amount of government contracts at central and local government to the young people, but also even disposal when they're selling cars, generators to the young people. The issue is then now how do we move from the frameworks into qualitative changes? And one thing that works always is knowing who you are, having the confidence that this is our country and we can change things, and then building alliances around that. So I would like to say that we have that power and we just have to realize it. But remember that this project of Uganda is ours and is here for a long time. Thank you very much.
All right, you're most welcome. In 30 seconds, let me get closing remarks from Ivan and Diana.
The issue of youth is about potential. You can't discuss the little potential you have, yet you have the majority unwasted. So, me, I'm one of those who are just lucky to be on this table. I was born in Bududa. I passed through UP at a certain level. In my class, at least I reached graduation at the university. So I was part of the State of Youth Report by Uganda Parliamentary Forum, and key concerns are effectiveness. If there was effectiveness in the general service delivery of Ugandans, I think even youth making noise would still be minimum.
Okay.
But because of great ineffectiveness is why even us now, youth, we need to come up isolated. The whole issue is we call upon government to increase its effectiveness on handling not only youth-led affairs, but the national affairs. Because education, health are a reflection of the 70.7% of the young people.
Okay, Diana.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wan. I would like really to thank NTV for this opportunity and use the same spirit to appeal to the government that if actually we could be at the not just as observers, but also at the forefront. Like we know a lot of deployments are going to come up and all, and this is the best chance to front young people in this transition, in the whole process. So my request in everything, Because I know we are not perfect, we might be not much as experienced, but I believe the best currency in this whole political world and in governance like we're talking about is information. And to acquire this information and get all this knowledge, you just have to be part of the process. So our request, and I know like at the head of state and very many other young people, many people that we look up to, they will say, I was part of this, I was a committee here. You see, they were given that opportunity. So we no longer want to just be dormant. We want to help. We are ready. Let them use our energy, and we help and contribute to the development of
One last quote from Ola.
Yeah.
Mine is simply a call of unity to all the youth. Let us put our heads together. Let us put all our energy. Avoid being manipulated by forces around us, by other generations. Know what we want. This country is ours. And as your leaders for the next 5 years, we shall always do our best to come to you and also add what we can to the voices and put really center the young people. Lastly, I want to thank NTV for having me and for giving me amazing co-panelists. God bless you.
Okay. All right. I will tell you, three of you, as you sit here today, you are not only representing young people, but the burdens and the pressures of the young people sit on your shoulders. And so as young leaders, there's more that you can actually do to pave way, widen the gap. I mean, widen the door for others to walk through and be able to not only benefit, but be part of the decision making, be part of the nurturing of the next generation, and also be part of consultation and collaboration. So as young people representing the largest demographic force in so many societies, including our very own country, numbers alone do not actually automatically translate into influence. Let's be realistic about that. The real challenge for government right now is to actually move beyond youth consultation and move towards youth collaboration, something that Diana did touch base on, where young people help to design, they help shape, as also implement policies that do affect and influence the future that will be theirs. I am joined by also a